when we talk about strategy, we always come with teams and start talking about strategy, and they always said, we're talking about the same thing. We're not doing anything new. We need to have a different ideas. We have to do something different than our competitors. And we have a program, we have a teaching that we call Outthink the Competition. And Outthink the Competition is really finding what we call the fourth option. When we work with teams, they usually have the typical three that first come to mind, the low-hanging fruit. And we tell them, hey, if you do exactly the same as everyone else in your industry or your competitors, most likely you're going to have the same results. It's very difficult that you do the same thing and have different results. You have to find the fourth option. And we teach a framework called IDEAS framework. And it's a 5 steps that we design or help you go through to really understand what's that fourth option. So let me start with the IDEAS framework. First is imagine. You want to have a set of ideas that you could do, but we push the team to really look for where it's impossible or it's outside of the scope or it's difficult. And the first thing we have to do here is divide the typical phrase called strategic planning. We love to divide it in 2. We're going to help you do strategic thinking and then execution planning. When you're worried about how to execute, you will lower your ideas. You will say, no, that's going to be very expensive to do. That's going to be very difficult. We said, no, don't worry about that. Let's just have strategic thinking and have clear what we need to do to be successful. Don't worry about the how. Don't worry about cost. Don't worry about anything else. Just worry about what. And here we have a set of ideas that we ask the team to come up with. And let me give you an idea or an example that happened with me on this. I was working with a flower company in Ecuador. Ecuador is one of the best places in the world to grow flowers because of the height of Ecuador and their soil. And we're having a conversation with this company, and one of the employees said, okay, let's open operations in Kenya. And the owner said, no, we're not even going to talk about that. And we said, no, wait, we're having this conversation about having great ideas. That's an idea. It has to stay on the table. And the owner said, no, get off the table. And I said, I'm sorry, I'm running this exercise. We're going to keep it on the table. I want every idea on the table. So he said, okay, fine. So we put the ideas on the table and then went through the rest of the process, the dissect and the rest, and expand and analyze. And we went to the fourth step, that was the analysis. It came out as the number 1 idea to do. So that day we finish the session. And usually when I travel to see clients for 2 or 3 day planning session, after 5 or 6 p.m. when we finish, we end up going to have a drink or a dinner. So have a better connection, have a discussion of what happened in the day. I got in the car with the owner of this company and he drove me to my hotel and just left me. And that was it. And I was like, oh, he must be mad. So the next day he texted me like at 6:30 in the morning and said, hey, I'll pick you up to have breakfast, you and I, before we go to a meeting. I was like, yeah, of course. So 7 a.m. I was in the lobby. He comes to pick me up and he tells me, hey, I'm really mad with you. I was like, why are you mad? And he said, because it's clear that the best thing I could do for my company is open operations in Kenya, because Kenya is the other country that has the best soil for flowers in the world. And if I really want to dominate the world, I have to open Kenya. If I send a flower from Ecuador to Paris, because of the distance, it's very expensive to send it. And 2, the flower loses like 24 hours of freshness. I could not compete with anyone that is sending it from Kenya. That's the best thing I could do for my company. And in my big, I got my long-term goal is world domination. And it's a logical thing. The problem is that I'm not willing to do it as the owner because I'm going to have to fly to Kenya every month. And that's going to destroy my personal life. Not willing to do it. And I was like, great. I love that you accept that. But then we have to change the strategy, because if the strategy is be the best rose company or the best flower company in Europe, it's impossible you dominate from Ecuador. You have to open Kenya. If you're not willing to do that, great. America, it's a big enough continent. Let's be the best in America, or the biggest one in America, and you could do everything from Ecuador. And he said, great. So we came back to a team and we changed the strategy, and then we're able to have ideas based on that. Super important to do this. And we have a lot of exercise and examples to get the teams to think different, imaginative, whatever. So you first have to imagine a list of ideas and just put everything on the wall, and then we'll start dissecting it. That is number 2. And in dissection, you want to really understand based on your strengths, your weaknesses. As an example, you could not dominate Europe if you have a plant in Ecuador, right? So whenever you start dissecting, you realize what are your strengths and your weaknesses. where's your dominance in the market, what access to technologies, and then you start dissecting and really understanding based on who you are and your strategy, what are the right ones, and you start playing with them and really defining them to really see if you're the best to execute them or not. Remember, when you think about your big hat, you have to think your strategy on 3 dimensions. What are you deeply passionate about? What can you be the best in the world at? And what makes you money? And the dissect, you're seeing all your ideas through this and really expanding them so you could get a sense of them. Then you have to expand them. And here, imagine you said, hey, one idea is that I'm going to open operations in Kenya. And if I open operations in Kenya, can I also sell mangoes to Europe, right? Now I'm going to have an operation there. I'm going to have fields. I'm going to have transport to Europe. I'm going to be selling supermarkets. Should I do this and also sell them mangoes or exotic fruits or whatever? You have to expand your idea and really understand the potential that you have with the ideas. When usually you have one idea, you think limited to your idea, but then when you start getting deeper and really understanding your strengths and your weaknesses, then you start expanding on your ideas. And that could change the order if the idea is more important or not. Because if that idea helps you to move other projects along, imagine you said, hey, we have a sister company or whatever that sells fruits in Europe, that is going to help me expand or move other projects along. Those are the kind of things that you want to analyze and expand your ideas to make sure they will help you move other projects along. Super, super important. And then the fourth one is analyze. Now you have the ideas, you dissect them, you expand them and see their potential. Now you have to analyze. And there we have a model we call winning moves. You want to do a matrix of 2 by 2 and rank your ideas in impact. You could have financial impact, but also complexity and cost of doing it. And the 2 things that I like about this exercise a lot, by the way, I did this exercise last week with a company, and I love because they're aha moments. It's amazing. Every time I run it, all the teams I run them, they're very excited about. If we're so busy with the opportunities to grow 5% or 10% or 20%, that we don't have time to do the big ideas. And the one that has been talking about this a lot is strategic coach Dan Sullivan, and he just wrote a book with Ben Hardy called Why Growing 10x is Easier Than 2x. And what happens there is we're so busy growing 2x that we miss and we don't have time for the 10x. And that's also, I remember the exercise of the rocks, that you put the rocks, if you put the sand before, you will not have time or energy for the rocks. Same thing happens here. This is the way to really understand which are the moves or your strategy that we call winning moves that will take you to really understand what are your 10x ideas and be able to put the 10x ideas first. So you have the time and the energy and the mindset to the 10x ideas and not just the 2x ideas. So that's really when you start analyzing them. And you have this 2 by 2 that I explained, that you break it in 4 quadrants. The top quadrant on the right is what we call a winning move. It's a move that gives you 2, 3, 5, 10 times growth with low cost or easy to do. Then the one on the right, it is a winning move, but it's a costly and expensive winning move. So yes, I wish you do them, but you have to strategize them and probably get loans or do more planning for them to do them. So the ones on the top are winning moves, but you have the cheap and low-hanging fruit ideas and the expensive and hard to do. And then below, you have the losing moves. And there are all the moves that will help you go 5, 10%, that all your competitors are very busy doing those things, but you want to go to the winning moves to really go beyond your competition. And I love this methodology because it's so easy to really get to that the clarity that the teams get once they run them is really cool. And then, of course, you get the 5 part of the idea, and it's selling it. You have to sell it to the board, you have to sell it to the management, and then you have to sell it to the team. And it's hard. It's very hard when you're going to do something very aggressive, you're going to do something very different to sell it. And here I love the story of Intel. Intel, the company that does the chips. Intel was a company that before they used to do memory chips. And the 2 founders, Gordon Moore and I forgot the name of the other one, they had all these investors, and the investors were pushing them to go from memory chips to go to processing chips. And they didn't want to change because they were comfortable, they were growing 2, 5, 20% a year. And one day they were having this conversation in the room and saying, hey, our investors are really mad that we're not changing to processing chips. We know the future is going to be processing chips, and we're stuck in a low added value, and we know processing chips is a way higher added value. No one is the winner in the world. We have the capability to go there, but we're so busy doing memory chips and making money there that we don't have time to really build that. One of them asked the other, said, hey, what happened if you and I don't change the company to that? What do you think the investors are going to do? And the other one said, most likely they're going to fire us and they're going to put another CEO that will do this the right way. And the other one said, okay, let's fire each other. They tell each other you're fired. They get out of the office to the street. They shake hands and said, hey, hi, how are you? I'm the new CEO, whatever. And they come back into the company and saying, we're going to move from memory chips to processing chips. And that's what Intel has been dominating the processing chips the last 30 years, precisely because they imagined what it was the future, they dissected, they expanded on the impact and the trends and everything, they analyze, they have clarity on what they have to do, but then they have to have an internal cell change of mindset. And they had to get out of the office physically to feel they were changing their mindset and come back with the new idea and sell it. And that's the right way of doing innovation. If you want to get deeper into this, we have an amazing article. We're going to put the link below. It's an amazing article by Kaihan Krippendorff. He is our faculty on strategy. He has the class Outthink the Competition. You could read more about Kaihan's model, how to do your 5 ideas and all that. And if you really want to put this in practice, of course, we have a course with Kaihan that he walks you personally through all the process, exercises, tools, community, coaching, everything you need to really understand this model and implement in your business. It's called Outthink the Competition Master Business Course by Kaihan Krippendorff. We will also put the link below.